The stars burned cold and distant through the observation window of the Earth Coalition vessel Steadfast. Lieutenant Una Parks stood at her station, watching the endless darkness of space stretch out before her. She had been serving on this ship for 2 years now, running supply missions to the outer colonies. It was quiet work, safe work. But nothing in space stayed safe for long. The Steadfast was part of a convoy of 7 ships, all carrying food, medicine, and equipment to the human settlements near the Orion Nebula. They were still 3 days away from their destination when the alarms started screaming. Una's hands moved fast across her console. Her heart beat hard in her chest, but her face stayed calm. She had trained for moments like this. She had prepared herself for the worst. "Contact on all sides," shouted the navigation officer. They came out of nowhere. Through the window, Una saw them. Veth warships. Dozens of them, surrounding the convoy like wolves around a wounded animal. Their ships were long and sharp, built from black metal that seemed to drink in the light of the stars. The Veth Empire had been conquering species across the galaxy for centuries. They were tall, pale creatures with 6 eyes and minds that could reach into your thoughts and twist them like wet cloth. No one escaped. The Veth. No one resisted them. Captain Minho Kang's voice came through the speakers. Steady but tight. "All hands, prepare for combat. We will not surrender without a fight." But Una knew the truth. Everyone on that bridge knew it. Fighting the Veth was like fighting the tide. You could struggle all you wanted, but in the end, the water would swallow you whole. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. The Steadfast shields failed under the heavy fire from the Veth cruisers. The hull cracked and groaned. Smoke filled the corridors. Una grabbed a weapon and joined the security team as Veth soldiers boarded the ship. She saw her crewmates fall around her, not from wounds, but from something worse. The Veth soldiers would point at a human, and that human would simply stop. Their eyes would go empty. Their weapons would drop from their hands. They would stand there like puppets with their strings cut, waiting for orders. The Veth did not need guns to conquer. They had something far more powerful. They had control over the mind itself. Una fired at the advancing soldiers. She hit 2 of them before a third one turned his 6 cold eyes toward her. She felt pressure inside her skull, like fingers pushing against the inside of her brain. A voice that was not her own whispered in her thoughts, "Drop your weapon. Kneel." Obey. Her hand trembled. The gun felt heavy. For a moment, her knees started to bend. Then she remembered her brother. Taiho Park had been taken by the Veth 3 years ago. He had been a scientist working on a research station near the border. When the Veth came, they took everyone. Una never saw him again. She spent many nights crying, many days feeling helpless. But then the helplessness turned to anger, and the anger turned to purpose. She began training herself. She studied old meditation techniques. She learned how to build walls inside her mind, how to divide her thoughts into separate rooms, how to hide her true self behind layers of silence. She practiced for hours every day, pushing pins into her skin to learn pain tolerance, staring at flames until her eyes burned to learn focus. She made herself into something new, something hard. The Veth soldier pushed harder. The voice in her head grew louder. Neil. Yun. I looked straight into those 6 pale eyes. She thought of Taiho. She thought of every tear she had cried. She thought of the wall she had built, brick by brick, inside her own mind. And she gave the soldier nothing. No fear, no obedience. Only silence. The soldier blinked. For just a moment, confusion flickered across his alien face. That moment was enough. Una raised her gun and fired, but there were too many of them. More soldiers came. They grabbed her arms and forced her to her knees. They did not try to control her mind again. Instead, They bound her hands with energy cuffs and dragged her through the broken corridors of the Steadfast. She saw the bodies of her crewmates. Some were dead. Most were simply standing there, empty-eyed, waiting for commands. Captain Kang was among them. His face was blank. His spirit was gone. The Veth took Yuna to their flagship, a massive vessel called the Dominion. It was larger than any ship she had ever seen, a city floating in the void of space. The corridors were dark and cold, lit by pale blue lights that made everything look like a dream or a nightmare. They brought her to a great hall at the center of the ship. The ceiling rose high above, disappearing into shadow. At the far end of the hall stood a throne made of black stone, and on that throne sat the commander of the Veth fleet. His name was Draven. He was taller than the other Veth, his skin so pale it was almost white. His 6 eyes glowed with a soft purple light, and when he looked at Yuna, she felt the weight of his attention like a physical force. "Another human," he said. His voice was smooth and cold, like ice sliding across glass. But she heard it twice, once with her ears and once inside her mind. "Your kind breaks so easily, like dry branches in a storm." The soldiers forced Yuna to her knees before the throne. She kept her head down, but her mind sharp. She could feel Draven reaching toward her thoughts, testing her defenses like a man pressing his hand against a locked door. "My soldiers tell me you resisted," Draven said. He sounded amused. "That is rare. That is very rare indeed." He stood from his throne and walked toward her. His footsteps made no sound. He stopped right in front of her and reached down to lift her chin with one long, cold finger. "Look at me," he commanded. Yuna looked. She met his 6 eyes and showed him nothing. No fear, no anger, no hope, just emptiness. Just the wall. Draven pushed. She felt his mind slam against hers like a wave hitting a cliff. He was strong, stronger than anything she had ever felt. The pressure was enormous. It made her head hurt. It made her nose bleed. But the wall held. Draven pulled back. For a moment, something like surprise crossed his ancient face. Then he smiled, and that smile was more terrifying than anything else. "Interesting," he said softly. "Very interesting." He turned to his soldiers. "Take her to the special quarters. She is not to be harmed. She is not to be touched. She belongs to me now." As the soldiers dragged her away, Yuna allowed herself one small thought, hidden deep behind her walls, where even Draven could not reach. "You think you own me," she thought. "You think you have won. But you have made a mistake. You have brought me exactly where I need to be." Somewhere on the prison moon called Ashfall, her brother was still alive. She had heard rumors. She had followed whispers across the stars. And now she was inside the Veth Empire, inside their greatest ship, close to their most powerful commander. Draven thought he had captured a prize. He thought he had found a puzzle to solve, a mine to break. He did not understand that he had invited a storm into his home. And by the time he realized the truth, it would be far too late. The room they gave Yuna was small but clean. There was a bed, a table, a chair, and a window that looked out into the endless darkness of space. The door had no handle on the inside. She was a prisoner in a comfortable cage. Every morning, a young Veth servant brought her food and water. His name was Chorus, and he was different from the other Veth she had seen. He was smaller, thinner, and his 6 eyes held something that the warriors and commanders did not have. They held out. Chorus never spoke to her at first. He would place the tray on the table, bow his head, and leave. But Yuna watched him carefully. She saw the way he flinched when the guard shouted. She saw the marks on his arms where someone had hurt him. She saw that he was just as much a prisoner as she was. On the 5th day, she spoke to him. "Thank you," she said simply. Chorus froze. His eyes went wide. Servants were not supposed to be thanked. Prisoners were not supposed to speak kindly. The words confused him so much that he almost dropped the tray. You are welcome, he whispered. Then he hurried out of the room, but the seed was planted. And Una was patient. Every day, Draven summoned her to his throne room. 2 guards would escort her through the long, dark corridors of the Dominion. She memorized every turn, every door, every security station. She counted the steps. She noted the positions of the cameras. She watched and learned and remembered. Draven was always waiting for her, sitting on his throne like a spider in the center of its web. He enjoyed these sessions. She could see it in his eyes, in the slight curve of his thin lips. To him, she was a game, a challenge, a toy that refused to break. "Tell me about your world," he said during one of their early meetings. "Tell me about Earth." Una stood before him with her hands bound. She kept her face empty and her mind closed. "It is blue," she said. "Blue and green. There are oceans that stretch farther than you can see." Draven leaned forward. "And your people? What makes humans so stubborn? So willing to fight when there is no hope of victory?" Una thought about this. "We are afraid," she said honestly. "We are always afraid. But we have learned to keep walking even when we are scared. Fear does not stop us. It pushes us forward." Draven laughed. It was a cold sound, like stones falling into deep water. "Fear pushes you toward death." "How foolish." "Maybe," Una said. "Or maybe it pushes us towards something worth dying for." After that conversation, Draven began pushing harder into her mind. He would sit across from her and close his 6 eyes, reaching through the space between them with invisible hands. She could feel him searching, probing, looking for cracks in her wall. She gave him what he wanted to find. She had prepared for this. During her years of training, she had built more than just walls. She had built rooms. False rooms filled with false memories. She let Draven find these rooms one by one. He found a memory of a storm. Una as a child, hiding under a table while thunder shook the house. She let him feel her fear, her small body trembling. He smiled with satisfaction that he found a memory of a boy. Her first love, or so it seemed. A young man with kind eyes who had left her for another woman. She let Draven feel her heartbreak, her loneliness. He nodded as if this confirmed something he had always believed. He found a memory of failure. A test she did not pass, a promotion she did not receive, a moment when she felt worthless and small. She let him drink in her shame. None of these memories were real. She had built them carefully, like an artist painting a picture. They were detailed enough to feel true, emotional enough to taste genuine. And Draven, so certain in his power, so confident in his ability to see all truth, never suspected that he was being fed a meal of lies. Meanwhile, Una continued her real work. Corys began to trust her. He would linger a little longer each day, sometimes sitting on the edge of her bed while she ate. She asked him questions about his life, about the ship, about the Empire. He answered hesitantly at first, then more freely. "I was born on a service world," he told her one evening. "My parents were servants. Their parents were servants. We have always served the highborn ones. It is our purpose. But do you want to serve?" Una asked gently. Is was quiet for a long time. "I do not know," he finally admitted. "I have never been asked what I want before." Una reached out and touched his thin arm. "Where I come from, every person gets to decide their own purpose. Even people who were born to serve. Even people who were told they were worthless. They can choose to become something else." Corys looked at her with those 6 uncertain eyes. "You speak of impossible things. Only because you have never seen them," Una said. "But impossible things happen every day. You just have to believe they can." Weeks passed. Una learned the command codes by watching Draven's officers enter them on their screens. She learned the patrol schedules by counting the footsteps outside her door. She learned which guards were lazy and which were cruel, which doors were locked and which were only closed. And she learned about SHFALL.K. Oh, our ice mentioned it one night when he was particularly tired. The prison moon was where the Veth sent their most valuable captives, the ones they wanted to keep alive but broken. Scientists, engineers, leaders. People whose knowledge could be extracted and used. My brother is there, Una said, keeping her voice calm. He was taken 3 years ago. Chorus looked at her with something like pity. Then he is still useful to them. The useless ones are sent to the mines. The useful ones are kept in the research facility. They are not killed, but he stopped himself. But what? They are not themselves anymore. The mind shapers work on them every day. Eventually, they become empty, obedient. They forget who they were. Una felt something cold settle in her chest. But she did not let it show on her face. She could not afford to feel despair. Not now. Not when she was so close. Chorus, she said slowly, would you help me if I asked you to? The young Veth trembled. Help you? I am a servant. I have no power. You have more power than you know. You can go places I cannot. You can see things I cannot see. You can be my eyes and my hands in the parts of this ship I cannot reach. Chorus shook his head frantically. If they catch me, they will kill me. They will do worse than kill me. Una took his hands in hers. If you do nothing, you will spend the rest of your life serving masters who see you as less than dirt. You will die having never lived. Is that what you want? Tears formed in Chorus's eyes. Una had never seen a Veth cry before. She had not known they could. No, he whispered. That is not what I want. Then help me. Help me bring down the one who keeps us both in chains. Help me show the galaxy that the Veth can be beaten. For a long moment, Chorus said nothing. Then, slowly he nodded. That night, Una allowed herself a small smile. The game had truly begun, and Draven did not even know he was playing. 2 months had passed since Una's capture. Outside the walls of the Dominion, the war between humans and the Veth Empire continued. But inside the great flagship, another war was being fought. A war of minds. A war of patience. A war that only one person knew was happening. Draven had become obsessed. His officers noticed it first. He spent hours every day in his throne room with the human prisoner, pushing into her mind, searching for the key that would unlock her completely. He neglected his duties. He ignored reports from the front lines. He dismissed his advisors when they tried to speak with him about important matters. The humans are pushing back on the frontier, Admiral Vex told him one morning. They have developed new shielding technology. Our telepaths cannot penetrate their ships as easily as before. Draven waved his hand lazily. Handle it yourself. I am busy. Commander, the War Council needs your guidance. We have lost 3 systems in the past month. The other conquered species are watching. If they see weakness, they may rebel. Draven's 6 eyes flashed with anger. I said I am busy. When I break this human, I will break them all. I will learn the secret of their resistance, and then no species will ever defy us again. Now leave me. Admiral Vex bowed and left, but his eyes held something dangerous. Doubt. The same doubt that was slowly spreading through the ranks of the Veth fleet. Una knew all of this. Chorus brought her information every day now. He had grown braver over the weeks, moving through the ship like a shadow, listening at doors, watching screens when officers were not paying attention. He had smuggled her a small communication device hidden inside a food tray. It was old and weak, but it was enough. She had made contact with the human resistance. Captain Do-hun Choi was a legend among the scattered human forces. He had escaped Veth capture 3 times. He had destroyed 2 Veth cruisers with nothing but a cargo ship and clever planning. He operated behind enemy lines, striking fast and disappearing before the Veth could respond. When Yuna's signal reached him, he did not believe it at first. "You are inside the Dominion?" His voice crackled through the tiny device. "Draven's personal flagship?" "Yes," Yuna whispered in the darkness of her room. "I have been gathering information for 2 months. I know their patrol routes. I know their command codes. I know when their shields are weakest." There was a long silence. Then Do-hun laughed, a warm sound that made Yuna's heart ache for home. "You are either the bravest soldier I have ever met, or the craziest," he said. "Probably both. Tell me everything." And she did. Over the following weeks, she passed information to Do-hun piece by piece. Ship positions, fleet movements, weakness in the Dominion's defenses. Every detail she had collected became a weapon in human hands. But she was not finished with Draven. Not yet. During their daily sessions, she could feel his frustration growing. He had broken into several of her false rooms, eaten several of her false memories. But he sensed that something was wrong. The pieces did not fit together. The picture was incomplete. "You are hiding something," he said one day, pacing around her like a hungry animal. "There is a door I cannot find. A secret you keep locked away. Tell me what it is." Yuna lowered her eyes. "I am hiding nothing, my lord. You have seen all of me. Lies." He grabbed her face roughly, forcing her to look at him. "I have broken 10,000 minds. I know when someone is lying to me. And you, little human, are lying." She let fear show in her eyes. It was easy. She simply had to remember her brother, trapped on Ashfall, his mind being slowly destroyed by Veth Shapers. The fear was real. She just let Draven think it was about him. "Please," she whispered. "Please, I cannot take any more." Draven smiled. His grip on her face tightened. Yes, I feel it now. You are cracking. The wall is crumbling. Show me. Show me what you are hiding." He pushed harder than he had ever pushed before. The pain was terrible. It was like having hot needles shoved through her skull. Blood dripped from her nose. Her vision blurred. For one moment, she truly feared that her wall would break. But then she remembered why she was here. She remembered Taiho's smile. She remembered the sound of his laugh, the way he used to ruffle her hair when she was young. She remembered her promise to herself, made in the darkness of her room 3 years ago, while tears ran down her face. "I will find you. I will save you. I will burn the Empire to the ground if I have to." The wall held. But she made Draven think it was cracking. She let him slip past one barrier, just one, and she showed him what she wanted him to see. He saw Earth burning. He saw human cities in flames, human armies kneeling in defeat. He saw Yuna herself, dressed in the robes of a Veth servant, bowing before Draven's throne with adoration in her eyes. He saw humanity completely conquered, completely broken, completely his. Draven gasped and pulled back. His eyes were wide. A smile of pure joy spread across his pale face. "Yes," he breathed. "Yes, I see it now. This is what you feared most. This is what you have been hiding. You know we will win. You know there is no hope. And deep in your heart, you want to serve me. You want to be mine." Yuna let tears fall down her cheeks. "Yes, my lord," she said, her voice breaking. "You are right. I cannot fight anymore. Please, please accept me." Draven laughed with delight. He had finally broken her, or so he believed. He called his officers and announced his victory. Tonight, there would be a celebration. The stubborn human had finally knelt, but alone in her room that night, Yuna wiped her tears and smiled. She sent a message to Doan. Tomorrow night, the shields will be down at midnight for the celebration. Strike fast. I will be ready. Dohan's reply was simple. We will be there. Hold on a little longer. Yuna looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, her brother was waiting. Somewhere out there, freedom was waiting. And tomorrow night, Draven would learn what happened when you underestimated a human being. She closed her eyes and rested. Tomorrow would be a long day. The celebration had begun. Music filled the great halls of the Dominion, strange alien sounds that echoed through the metal corridors like the singing of ghosts. Veth officers drank from crystal glasses, their pale faces flushed with victory. Draven sat on his throne, dressed in his finest robes, receiving praise from his followers. He had done what no one else could do. He had broken a human mind. He had proven that even the most stubborn species in the galaxy could be made to kneel. Soon, the war would end. Soon, all of humanity would bow. But far below, in the prisoner quarters, Yuna was not celebrating. Koris came to her room just before midnight. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were steady. He had changed over the past weeks. He was no longer just a frightened servant. He was something more. He was someone who had chosen his own path. The guards are all upstairs, he said. The celebration has taken everyone. I brought what you asked for. He handed her a bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside was a Veth uniform, a security card, and a small energy pistol. Yuna changed quickly while Koris kept watch at the door. Are you scared? She asked him. Koris nodded. More scared than I have ever been in my life. Good. Fear will keep you sharp. But do not let it control you. You control it. She took his hand and squeezed it once. Thank you, Koris, for everything. When this is over, you will have a choice. You can come with us or you can stay. Either way, you will be free. Tears formed in his eyes again. No one has ever given me a choice before. Then this is the first of many. Yuna smiled. Now let us go change the future. They moved through the corridors like shadows. The ship was almost empty. Everyone who mattered was at the celebration, drinking and laughing and dreaming of conquest. They did not know that death was already walking through their home. Yuna reached the shield control room at exactly midnight. 2 guards stood outside, but they were drunk and careless. She used the security card to open a side door and slipped behind them before they knew she was there. 2 quick shots, and they fell without making a sound. Inside the control room, a single officer sat at a console, watching screens with half-closed eyes. He turned when Yuna entered, confusion on his face. Before he could call for help, she had already crossed the room and pressed the pistol against his head. Lower the shields, she said calmly. Now, the officer's 6 eyes went wide. You cannot. The celebration? Commander Draven. Commander Draven is about to have a very bad night. Lower the shields, or I will lower them myself after I put a hole in your head. The officer's hands trembled as he typed the commands. On the screens, Yuna watched the great energy barriers around the Dominion flicker and die. The flagship was now naked, exposed, vulnerable. She looked out the window and smiled. They came from hyperspace like angels of vengeance. Captain Doan Troy's strike force, 12 ships strong, appeared in perfect formation around the Dominion. The first missiles hit before anyone could react. The celebration music died, replaced by the scream of alarms. The Veth officers dropped their glasses and ran for their stations. But it was already too late. Yuna moved fast. She had memorized the path to the prisoner holding area. Koris ran beside her, opening doors with his servant access. All around them, the ship shook and groaned under the assault. Smoke began to fill the corridors. Emergency lights flashed red and white. They reached the holding cells in minutes. Inside, Una found what she was looking for. Human prisoners, dozens of them, still alive but broken. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, all of them had been captured over the years. Their minds violated by Veth Shapers until they forgot who they were. And there, in the corner of the last cell, she found him. Taiho looked nothing like she remembered. He was thin, so thin she could see his bones through his skin. His hair was gone. His eyes were empty, staring at nothing. Marks covered his arms where they had connected machines to his flesh, but when she knelt before him and took his face in her hands, something stirred behind those empty eyes. Something that recognized her. "Taiho," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "It is me. It is Una, your sister. I came for you. I promised I would come for you, and I am here." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a single tear rolled down his hollow cheek. "You... nah?" His voice was barely a whisper, rough from years of silence. "Una?" She pulled him into her arms and held him tight. She did not cry. She had no time to cry. But she held him like she would never let go. "We are going home," she said. "But first, we have work to do." She gave weapons to the prisoners who could still hold them. There were not many, but they did not need many. Dohan's boarding parties had already breached the hull. Human soldiers were fighting their way through the corridors, meeting Veth resistance at every turn. But the Veth were confused. Their telepaths tried to reach into human minds, but the boarding soldiers had been trained by the resistance. They had learned Una's techniques, building walls in their own heads, protecting their thoughts. For the first time, the Veth faced enemies they could not control. Una led her small group toward the command deck. Along the way, they met up with a squad of human soldiers. Their leader was a young man named Ji-hoon, barely 20 years old, with fierce eyes and a quick smile. "You must be the one who sent the message," he said. "Captain Choi told us to find you. He said you would know where to go." "I know where to go," Una said. "Follow me." They fought their way up through the ship. The Veth threw everything they had at them. Soldiers, telepaths, security systems. But nothing could stop them. Years of anger, years of pain, years of loss. All of it had become fuel for this moment. When they reached the doors to the command deck, Ji-hoon put his hand on Yuna's shoulder. "Captain Choi says the mission is complete. The fleet is destroyed. We can pull back now and escape before reinforcements arrive." Una looked at the doors. She thought of all the lives Draven had destroyed, all the minds he had broken, all the families he had torn apart. "You go," she said. "Get the prisoners to the escape ships. Get my brother to safety. What about you?" Una checked her weapon. "I have one more thing to do." Ji-hoon stared at her for a moment. Then he nodded. "Good luck, Lieutenant." "I do not need luck," Una said. "I have something better." She stepped forward and opened the doors to the command deck. Inside, Draven was waiting for her. The command deck was burning. Screens flickered with error messages. Bodies lay scattered across the floor. Veth officers who had been killed in the attack or had fled to save themselves. Through the great windows, Una could see the battle still raging outside. Human ships darted between the broken remains of the Veth fleet, finishing off the last of the resistance. But Draven still stood. He was in front of his throne, surrounded by his personal guards. There were 10 of them, the finest warriors in the Veth Empire. Each one had killed hundreds of enemies. Each one was completely loyal to their commander. Draven looked at Una with those 6 glowing eyes. His face was calm, almost peaceful. He did not seem afraid, even though his empire was crumbling around him. "So," he said softly, "the little human comes to finish what she started. Yuna walked forward slowly. Her weapon was steady in her hand. Your fleet is destroyed. Your prisoners are free. Your reign is over. Surrender, and I will make your death quick. Draven laughed. It was the same cold laugh she had heard so many times, but now there was something else in it. Something almost like respect. Surrender? I have never surrendered in my life. I have conquered 1,000 worlds. I have broken 1,000,000 minds. I am the greatest telepath in the history of my species. And you think you can defeat me? He raised his hand. His guards moved forward, weapons ready. You are nothing, Draven continued. A small, weak creature from a small, weak world. Your kind has only existed for a moment in cosmic time. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. You cannot change what is. Yuna did not answer. She simply raised her weapon and fired. The first guard fell. The second guard fell. The third managed to return fire, but Yuna was already moving, rolling behind a console, coming up on the other side. She fought like water flowing around stones, never stopping, never hesitating. 2 more guards fell before they understood what was happening, but they were the elite. They adapted quickly. They spread out, surrounding her, cutting off her escape routes. Yuna took cover behind a damaged console as energy blasts burned the air around her. Enough, Draven said. The word hit her like a physical blow. It was not just spoken. It was pushed directly into her mind, amplified by all of Draven's terrible power. She felt her muscles lock. She felt her breath catch in her throat. The wall in her mind trembled under the assault. Did you really think you could beat me? Draven walked toward her slowly, casually, like a man taking a stroll through a garden. I let you believe you were winning. I let you think your little walls could keep me out. But I am inside now, little human. I am inside, and I will tear everything apart. He unleashed the full force of his telepathy. The attack was beyond anything Yuna had ever felt. It was like standing in the middle of a hurricane. Visions flooded her mind, memories she had buried long ago. She saw her mother dying in a hospital bed. She saw her father weeping at the funeral. She saw Taiho being dragged away by Veth soldiers, reaching for her, screaming her name. She saw herself alone, broken, worthless. Give up. Draven's voice whispered inside her head. You have already lost. You lost the moment you were born into this weak, pathetic species. Surrender to me. Become mine. It is the only way to end the pain. Yuna's knees hit the floor. Blood poured from her nose. Tears streamed down her face. The wall was cracking. She could feel herself slipping away. And then, in the deepest part of her mind, she heard another voice. It was Taiho's voice from years ago, when she was just a child afraid of the dark. Yuna, he said, the dark cannot hurt you. You know why? Because you carry your own light inside. Even when everything else goes out, that light stays on. No one can take it from you. Not ever. Yuna stopped trembling. She had spent years building walls. She had trained her mind to resist, to hide, to survive. But she had forgotten something important. The walls were not her strength. They were just protection for her real strength. Her real strength was the light inside. The love for her brother. The hope for a better future. The absolute, unbreakable refusal to give up. She stood. Draven's eyes widened. Impossible. No one has ever. You spent months trying to find my weakness, Yuna said. Her voice was steady now. Calm. You never understood. My weakness is my strength. I have already lost everything once. I watched my world fall apart. I felt my heart break into pieces. But I rebuilt myself from nothing. I took every piece of broken glass and made myself something sharper. She walked toward him. The guards tried to stop her, but she moved through them like they were not there. Her weapon spoke again and again. Bodies fell. You cannot break what is already shattered and forged again, she continued. You cannot control someone who has already faced their worst fear and kept walking. You cannot win against someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Draven backed away. For the first time in his ancient life, he felt something alien to him. Something cold and terrible. Fear. Wait, he said. We can make an agreement. I can give you power, wealth, your brother's complete restoration. Anything you want. Yuna stood before him, just 2 meters away, close enough to see the terror in his 6 glowing eyes. You want to know what is inside my head? She asked. Let me show you. She opened her mind completely. She let down every wall, every barrier, every protection. And she showed Draven the truth. She showed him the love she had for her brother, the grief she had carried for years, the rage that burned like a star in her chest. She showed him every moment of training, every hour of pain, every tear she had cried in the darkness. She showed him the human spirit, unbroken and unbreakable, and she showed him what that spirit was capable of when pushed too far. Draven screamed. The pure force of human emotion hit him like a hammer. He had spent his life feeding on fear and despair. He had never felt anything like this. Hope, love, defiance. They burned through his mind like fire. He fell to his knees, clutching his head, crying out in a language Yuna did not understand. She raised her weapon. You want it inside my head, she said. I hope you found what you were looking for. She fired. The throne room fell silent. The last guard dropped his weapon and ran. Across the ship, across the entire fleet, every Veth telepath felt their commander die. The unbreakable one broken at last. The unconquerable one conquered by a single human woman. The battle ended. The survivors fled into the darkness between stars, carrying with them a new emotion. Fear. Fear of humanity. Fear of what happened when you pushed them too far. Yuna stood alone in the ruins of the command deck. Outside the window, human ships were gathering the escape pods, rescuing the prisoners, finishing the mission. Somewhere among them, Taiho was safe. Somewhere among them, hope was being reborn. She allowed herself one moment of stillness, one moment of peace. Then she turned and walked away from the body of the monster who thought he could control her. Months later, Yuna stood before a classroom full of young soldiers. She had been offered medals, commands, political positions. She had refused them all. Instead, she had built a school, a training academy for mental resistance. A young recruit raised her hand. Lieutenant Park, how did you resist Draven for so long? How did you keep him out of your head? Yuna smiled. It was the first real smile she had allowed herself in years. He thought silence meant weakness, she said. He never realized it was my loudest weapon. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Earth. The sky was painted in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in the distance, children were laughing. And in the hearts of every human who heard the story of the Dominion, a new fire was burning. A fire that would never go out. They were not weak. They were not broken. They were not afraid. They were human. And that was enough.